Lee Man is a counterfeit artist who is being extradited from Thailand to his home country, Hong Kong. The Hong Kong police force, led by Inspector Ho, is looking into a string of homicides and robberies involving fake currency that are connected to Lee. These incidents are found to be planned by a mastermind known as Painter. But since police are unable to find any information about the mastermind, they're now turning to Lee for his help. However, Lee seems to be extremely scared to talk about Painter and refuses to give any information. A while later, a famous artist named Yuan Man, who was once Lee's lover, shows up to bail him out. But the police won't let him go unless he provides information about the painter. So after some convincing by Yuan, Lee finally agrees to disclose some info in exchange for his freedom. Flashback to 1985, Lee and his girlfriend Yuan are working as painters in Vancouver. While Yuan produces original artwork, Lee is more interested in copying the works of well-known painters. However, he's incredibly talented in his line of work and can accurately copy almost any painting. While Yuan's career starts to take off, a renowned gallery invites her to display her works, but Lee still has to make a living by selling fake paintings. One evening, Lee returns home and overhears Yuan's manager advising her to stop working with Lee and concentrate on her own career if she wants to succeed. On the other hand, Yuan supports Lee and tells her manager that she'll be unable to work with him if he continues to be critical of Lee. A few days later, the couple is successful in getting a place in the art exhibition, where their paintings are on display for the audience to see. Many of them admire Yuan's creations, but don't pay much attention to Lee's paintings. Meanwhile, the infamous Painter also appears and demands Lee's painting by calling it a cheap copy. Hearing this, Yuan slams a wine glass in his face and asks him to go away. Lee follows the man to apologize, but it turns out that it was all set up by the painter so that they could meet in private. He claims to be aware of Lee's skill with fake artwork and praises his precision. The painter also says that he enjoys making exact replicas and offers Lee a job if he wants to make changes in his life. Lee returns to the exhibition and discovers that all of the paintings have been sold except for his own. When he says he wants to give up, Yuan unintentionally lashes out at his decision. He then burns his own painting and walks out. The next day, Lee goes to meet the painter and agrees to work for him. When he asks what paintings he wants to have copied, the painter shows him a $100 bill. It turns out that the painter intends to produce countless bundles of unrecognizable fake currency. This freaks out Lee, and he refuses at first, but eventually, Lee agrees when Painter assures him that he will be leaving with plenty of money to start his new life and win Yuan back. When Lee gets back home, he discovers Yuan leaving the house with her manager as a result of the expensive stunt Lee pulled at the art gallery. Next, Lee travels to Thailand with the painter and his crew in a private jet. The team consists of Mr. Yam, who is a printing plate specialist, and two other individuals in charge of security and sales. In March of last year, the United States issued a new $100 bill with a portrait of Benjamin Franklin that was 50% larger. Due to the increased level of detail, even the most advanced printers cannot print the bill discreetly. It's even more challenging to print by machine because of the microprint on the portrait's neck. This is the exact reason why the painter needs Lee's help. Throughout the following few days, Lee begins building the prototype, and every line he sketches is exactly like real money. But they still lack two essential components: starch-free papers and color-changing ink in large quantities. Starch-free paper is a type of paper that will cause counterfeit pens to turn yellow when drawn on. The government regulates the distribution of starch-free paper in the United States. The painter has yet to find a way to obtain the starch papers and color-changing ink, but in the meantime, he wants Lee to focus on the painting process. A few days later, they travel to Eastern Europe to visit a phone book manufacturer. These people make phone books out of starch paper, which is 3 times the width of a $100 bill. The painter pretends to be the owner of an educational charity that has come to buy paper to draw comics for African children. As a result, their plan is successful and they purchase 5 tons of paper. Now, the next thing they require is color-changing ink, which they definitely cannot afford to produce themselves. After working for 6 months, Lee goes back to Vancouver to give Yuan a key. He chooses to leave the key on her desk instead of meeting with her. Although Painter is adamant about helping Lee win his girl back, Lee wants to forget Yuan and exclude her from his criminal activities. They then stage a robbery, during which they hurt a few policemen to obtain 2 barrels of color-changing ink. The painter also blows up the police car in his rage over being shot. Lee is terrified by this incident and asks to leave the group, claiming that he did not sign up to kill people, but the painter does not allow him. They eventually make a perfect fake currency with the help of color-changing ink, which makes the painter and the other members overjoyed. This fake money is sold to numerous buyers very quickly, and they end up making a lot of money. However, they all stick to one strict rule, which is never to use counterfeit money for themselves. Since the police have received a hint of a sudden increase in fake dollar bills around the world, a counterfeit bill expert in the police named Wing is summoned from Canada to Hong Kong. Wing meets Inspector Ho, the head of Hong Kong police, and together they go on an undercover mission where they pretend to be customers looking to buy fake money. After several meetings with numerous intermediaries, they're finally permitted to meet the painter at a boat party. However, their goals of catching the offender are dashed when they find out that the painter has sent his brokers instead of him. Next, the group travels all over the world and conducts an international trade in counterfeit money. Both the profits and the level of demand for their products are insane. Then, a Thai crime boss known as the General offers them the highest price. He invites the painter and his group to a business meeting at his hideout. Before going in, Painter hands Lee an object and instructs him to release his hand when he says. The General requests that Painter teaches men how to counterfeit while also selling him the technology. But it turns out that Painter went there to take revenge on the General for killing his father. The painter then orders Lee to release the object that will set off the explosives in his jacket. His men start firing at the soldiers from a distance, while he hurriedly shoots all the soldiers he sees. Lee tries to escape the fighting, but he comes across a woman named Sao Ching who is trapped and decides to help her. After the group leaves, Sao Ching is looked after and welcomed into the group because of her counterfeit expertise. Due to her facial injury, she's given plastic surgery as well. And during this period, Lee and Sao Ching become close friends. Meanwhile, the painter issues her a false identification card bearing the name Yuan Man after Lee's ex-girlfriend. Following this incident, the group takes a 1-year break from business. To win Yuan back, Lee returns to Vancouver during this time, but he finds that she has become a well-known artist and is engaged to her manager. The painter convinces Lee to fight for his love, but Lee becomes afraid and leaves. One afternoon, the group is on their way to a business meeting on a yacht with an undercover cop named Wing. However, when the painter discovers Wing's true identity, he cancels the meeting. He also finds out that the printing plane expert, Mr. Yam, broke the law by using fake money to purchase a watch, which is how the police were able to locate them. Lee asks Mr. Yam to leave because he fears Painter will hurt him, but it's already too late. In the meantime, the painter arrives at the scene, and despite Mr. Yam's pleas, he kills him and also knocks Lee unconscious. Then they set fire to their factory and get rid of all the evidence. A few days later, the team meets Wing, who isn't aware that they know of his true identity. Lee is asked to open a box that contains a gun, but he hesitates. After knowing that he's exposed, the cop tries to fight back, but the painter ends up killing him. Then he opens a bedroom to reveal Yuan and his fiancée lying in bed with their hands tied. Painter asks Lee to murder the fiancée of his girlfriend so that he and Yuan can be together. But when Lee refuses, the painter murders Yuan's fiancée by himself. Lee loses his temper seeing this and points a gun at the painter, who does the same. After realizing Lee is about to be killed, Sao Ching attacks the rest of the team. During the shootout, all the members are killed, and Lee eventually kills the painter. He then hugs Yuan tightly as he still loves her deeply, but Sao Ching asks them to leave and takes him to a resort that the painter had purchased for them. For a few months, Lee and Sao Ching stay in the resort by themselves, but one day, he reads in the newspaper that Mr. Yam's entire family has been murdered, and the painter is still alive because his body was never found. It turns out that Sao Ching had been keeping all of these newspapers hidden until now. When Lee finds out that Yuan is getting ready to plan a memorial service for her dead fiancé, he fears that the painter will be there to kill her to get to him. He immediately sets out to find the painter, but on the way, he unintentionally uses the fake money and is caught by Thai police. As he gets into the police car, Lee notices Painter waving to him with a magazine about Yuan. Back in the present, Lee consents to paint Painter's face, and the police have a rough sketch of his identity. He is then released under Yuan's supervision, and they proceed to a hotel with security posted outside. The police launch a thorough search for the painter now that they have his picture. The next day, Inspector Ho observes a police officer entering the station who matches Painter's description. She alerts her colleagues, who successfully catch him before anything happens. It turns out that the man has actually been a legitimate police officer for many years and is not the painter. It's then revealed that the police officer was the one who helped in the transfer of Lee from Thailand to Hong Kong. Lee noticed his face on the way and remembered it so he could give a perfect sketch. Then, a flashback is shown, which reveals that Lee and the painter are the same person. Hot damn. Lee was the one who murdered Mr. Yam and his family as punishment for using fake currency, and he was the one who killed Yuen's fiancé in the last shooting that left most of his team dead. The police then try to get in touch with Yuen from yesterday, but she turns out to be fake as well. Actually, Cao Qing underwent plastic surgery and transformed into Yuen to Lee's satisfaction. It was she who kidnapped Yuen and her fiancé so that she could kill them and be with Lee forever. Because Lee was only using her as a copy for Yuen Man, she became frustrated and reported Lee to the Thai authorities. However, Lee wrote a letter to Cao Qing from prison, pleading for forgiveness and help in escaping, which is why she showed up. After that, the police try to locate them by contacting the hotel, but the two have already left the hotel room after killing the guards. They are now leaving Hong Kong's sea territory by boat, making it impossible for the police in Hong Kong to detain them. Cao Qing is upset, realizing that she will always be a second option and a cheap copy for Lee. When asked if he sees her for herself, Lee doesn't even bother to hide the fact that he still loves Yuen. The next day, Cao Qing suddenly stops the boat and tells Lee that she has intentionally driven in a circle since yesterday, and that they're still in Hong Kong Sea. She claims that she no longer wants to be Yuen's copy, and that she also doesn't want to lose Lee. Then, as a group of police officers surround them, she explodes the boat, killing both of them. In the final scene, Inspector Ho visits Yuen Man in China to let her know that her fiancé's killer is dead. But Yuen says she doesn't care because it won't bring her fiancé back. When asked if she recognizes Lee from his photograph, she replies that he was a neighbor a long time ago. It appears that Lee and Yuen's relationship was also made up, and his obsession with her was nothing more than a fantasy he created in his head. Now, another fantasy would be if you watch this. Another recap on our behalf. Cheers!